Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Batch 2 of Lesser Known But Awesome Heroes. And I'm going to kick it off with the very first character of Batch 2, and that is the supernatural vigilante hero known as Ragman. And Ragman's first appearance was in the first issue of his self-titled series in August to September of 1976. And he was created by Robert Kanier and Joe Kubert. And his team affiliations is the Sentinels of Magic and the Shadowpact. His abilities include enhanced physical attributes, enchanted costume, limited flight, and skilled use of magic. It's also worth noting that Ragman is actually one of the few DC Universe's Jewish heroes, or at least Jewish superheroes that has been left in their continuity. And here's basically a much more detailed version of his powers. Basically, Ragman draws upon the physical powers of any number of the corrupted souls that make up his suit. Basically, when he beats a bad guy, he basically consumes their soul like Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat. And basically, all the patches of his rag suit are mystically enchanted by a group of rabbis, which I'll get into that in his actual character biography. They were enchanted to pretty much a corrupt soul becomes a new patch that forms on his outfit, and their soul basically in a sense like takes that physical form of, a patch on his costume. And Ragman has said that he can at least concentrate and obtain no more than 100 souls. That's kind of the limit of his mental focus of being able to keep his tethered suit together. Also, on top of that, a little interesting tidbit, for a certain amount of time, if a patch on his costume helps him, like a soul, if they help him, because he can actually communicate with the souls that make up the patches of his suit. So he basically hears voices in his head in that sense. And he can see, the sins and evil doings that they did. On top of that, Ragman has also demonstrated that after a while, when each patch helps him out after a certain amount of missions, they are basically redeemed by heaven, and that patch dissipates, and their soul is basically sent to heaven as part of an equivalent exchange. So, even if they were a mass murderer, a child rapist, or anything, if they help Ragman and redeem themselves after a certain period of time, they eventually are allowed to ascend to heaven, and they are forgiven of their sins. So think of him as a much more angelic version of the Spectre, if you will. Also, the suit increases his strength, speed, and stamina dozens, even 100 times over. Although he has stated that it's not easy to tap into a large number of souls at once. As I said, he said the most that he had done was somewhere near 100 or slightly over. The suit also allows him to avoid most wounds, and he can use one of the other souls to take damage for him, allowing him to operate at peak efficiency, while the soul trap uses the damage for him. Let's see. However, there's a key to his suit. Only the most truly evil and impure souls can be able to be absorbed into the suit. And apparently there was a time when he tried to absorb the soul of the supervillain Blue Moon. However, he couldn't, because she was regularly sent to prison, as her powers only worked at night, and her time in prison counted as her serving her time, and prevented Ragman from punishing her. And also, as a physical effect, a side effect, Rory Reagan, let me actually pronounce if that's his name, if that name is correct. Yeah, Rory Reagan Ragman, has admitted that when he acquires a new patch, it actually gives him stomach cramps and nausea. Once a corrupted soul, however, as I just mentioned here, helps them enough times, they are given a free pass to heaven. Having earned redemption for the sins it committed in that life that would have landed it in hell if it had died in a normal manner. Ragman is also, as I said, he can use magic. He has minor magical powers, such as kinetically controlling his suit, i.e. he entangled Eclipso once with his cloak while grappling with her. The suit has also automatically materialized whenever he is in danger and will normally teleport him to wherever he's needed. It has recently been revealed that the suit can take on other forms, such as weapons, and still collect souls. Whether Rory will use this ability in the future is yet to be seen. To date, it has taken the forms of a cloak in ancient Egypt, a spear in the Roman Empire, and a dagger in 19th century England. Pretty interesting in its own right. And it's worth noting that there was actually a Golden Age Ragman. And his name was J. Garrison Jr., who first appeared in Catman #1, and he was the Golden Age Ragman. He first assumed this costume identity when, after writing an article denouncing a group of criminals, he was in a park and is shot by one of them, only to have a tramp jump in front of him and save his life. After discovering that the tramp is his exact double, he switches clothes with him and makes it look like the criminals have succeeded in shooting him. Dressing in the tramp's tattered clothes, he then interrupts a meeting at the gang's hideout and apprehends them. However, because he didn't renew copyright on him, the Ragman is a public domain, which then would be acquired by DC. At least I think that's how it went down. They don't really specify here. Also interesting to note, Rory's origins are actually in continuity tied to the DC Comics version of Golem, which was derived from the Golem of Prague, which is a Jewish folklore tale. And also, Rory actually operates out of Gotham City, oftentimes working with members of the Bat family, although Batman doesn't really like Ragman's methods. And understandably why, given who Bruce Wayne is. Now, here is the pre-crisis version of Ragman. A Vietnam vet, Rory grew up helping his father, a junkman who owned a pawn shop named Rags and Tatters. His father was always dreamed of making a better life for Rory and constantly promised that someday he would make Rory rich. While drinking with his friends one night, his father discovered $2 million stuffed inside an old mattress that had been pawned just recently. He and his friends decided to hide the money for Rory, since they were too old to truly benefit from it. The money turned out to be the loot from an armored car heist. And when the hoods came to the shop one night to get it, they shot down some electrical wires and used them to torture Rory's father and his friends into revealing where the money was hidden. Rory arrived soon after and, seeing his father in agony, attempted to pull him free from the wires. A final shock of power ran through the old man and grounded out at Rory, knocking him unconscious. When he awoke, his father and friends were dead and the hoods responsible were gone. Using a costume made out of old rags, his father had bought it from a stranger before he died and left a note saying Rory could wear it to a costume party. He became Ragman. And I'm not even going to pronounce that. I think it's pronounced the Tatterillian. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. But in this pre-crisis history, Rory apparently gained the physical abilities of the men who were electrocuted as they were all touching when the final blow of electricity flew through them and into Rory. He had the ability of a world-class acrobat, the strength of a circus strongman, the fighting ability of a heavyweight prizefighter. What he received from his father is unknown other than his obvious desire to take care of the neighborhood by spreading hope as his father did with the pawn shop. In his pre-crisis incarnation, Rory Reagan was Irish, not Jewish, as explicitly stated in the letter pages of Ragman issue 3. Now here's the post-crisis. Rory Reagan is a ragman doing good in his community by buying used items from people who need money. The suit of rags that he wears, as mentioned above, was originally just a costume made from materials found around the rag shop, rags and tatters that he shared with his father. This was retconned in a 1991 limited series, and currently each of the patches in the suit is made from the soul of an evildoer that the ragman has punished and absorbed. Now, the absorption of these souls caused a problem for Roy at first. When the evil souls hungered for murder and finally freed themselves of Ragman, it was only with the support of Batman and Reagan's old friend Rabbi Luria Luria. I'm really horrible at pronouncing, which I've stated many times in these videos. That he regained control, though at the cost of the rabbi's life. Ragman's powers have increased since then. Currently, he can absorb souls into his costume. With each new soul added, a new rag is added. He can call upon the souls in his costume to lend him their attributes or power. And he has also become a very proficient magic user. Judgment and Vengeance. During the Day of Judgment limited series, Ragman was active in destroying many of the demons invading Earth. This would earn him the wrath of the Diablos, a group of demons who style themselves after the Mafia. Wanting to gain revenge for the demons lost during the Day of Judgment, they attack Ragman, injuring him and tearing off pieces of his costume. They believe him to be dead, but this is not true. Oh yeah, that's one thing that I actually forgot to mention in the power set too. One of Ragman's biggest weaknesses is that his costume can actually be torn apart if, the magic or mystic strength of a person is strong enough, i.e. Zatanna or Dr. Fate or someone such as the like. Ragman is also one of the members of the Shadowpact, a group that formed to confront the Spectre in the DC Comics 2005 Day of Vengeance limited series, a lead-up to the 7-issue Infinite Crisis storyline. During Infinite Crisis, Nightshade and Ragman are seen standing side by side as part of the line of superheroes defending Metropolis from an attack of dozens of villains. During Day of Vengeance, Ragman is one of the few volunteers willing to take on the rampaging Spectre, who has decided that all magic is evil. During a planning session, he is taken aside by the Enchantress and given a mystical gun. She entrusts him with it as it can kill her if she goes too far with her magic. A scenario she believes is all too possible. He tells her if she truly turns evil, his costume will take her. He then tries to kiss her, but his feelings are not returned, and Enchantress even mocks him for it in front of the other heroes. The Shadowpact. In the Shadowpact series, Ragman, alongside his teammates, was trapped inside a shield of solid blood that grew over the town of River Rock, Wyoming. Ragman and the rest of the team spend a very short period of time inside the shield, but due to magical after effects, a full year passes outside. Various mystical heroes such as the Phantom Stranger and Rex the Wonder Dog keep watch outside the town's borders. While inside River Rock, Rory met an evil counterpart of himself belonging to a supervillain group that had formed the Shield, the Pentacle. His counterpart is named Bagman. He or it dresses in a similar green garb and can turn his body to goo, and while in this form he absorbs people. While inside Bagman, they either suffocate or they are digested. Bagman even mentioned how oddly similar the Shadowpact and the Pinnacle are. Rory only survives this encounter because Bagman's boss does not want the heroes to be killed. After the River Rock encounter, Rory must deal with the severe disruption to his life. And as everyone else thought he was dead, he, like most of the team, ends up having to find a new source of income, a place to stay, and the oddity of encountering a memorial statue to the entire team. In Shadowpact number 8, Rory was temporarily trapped in the limbo dimension of his own cloak. He met the soul of an ancient Centaurian working off his crimes. This man, Marcus Liberus, Liberius, first saved him from the beating several other of the murderous souls were giving Rory. Marcus reveals that the cloak was actually the Great Collector artifact, which had been in existence in many forms since the time of Abraham. Ragman in Rory's line had been active since 1812 BCE. And Marcus also helped Rory, who had become disenchanted with the job of collecting corrupted souls, to see that he is not a punisher but a redeemer by allowing a better afterlife for those who work for it. This work usually takes the form of suffering on Rory's behalf. For example, Rory had been recently blinded by magic. Marcus willingly takes this blindness on, adding to previous injuries he had suffered. This last sacrifice allows Marcus, in the full view of the rest of the Shadowpact, to ascend to a higher realm. Rory, alongside Nightmaster and Nightshade, attempted to teleport to Washington, D.C. to break up a bank robbery. They were trapped mid-transit in the land of Nightshades. During this time, it was suggested that he is attracted to team member Nightshade. Trinity. In the weekly series Trinity, Ragman appears, issue 18, to save a man from a gang of muggers, when reality has apparently been wrapped and there is no Trinity of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. And apparently never have been. Ragman is joined by a sidekick named Tathers, wears a green tathered hoodless costume and mask. At first, he is seen confronting an alternate version of Green Arrow, a vigilante on the service of the wealthy who ignores the poor. And later, due to a chronological blast, is seen assuming Batman's position as the premier vigilante of Gotham. And he briefly appears in the network one-shot for Battle of the Cowl, assisting Cassandra Cain and the Huntress in tracking down a group of hostages around Gotham. After removing the duct tape from the mouth of a gagged woman, he proceeds to berate her for her apparent drug addiction, telling her she'll never truly be free until she takes control of her life. And during the Blackest Night event, Necron completely shut down Ragman's suit by using the Black Lantern rings to reanimate all the souls attached to his body. And in Suit of Souls, in October of 2010, Ragman starred in a one-shot entitled Ragman Suit of Souls, which was written by Christos Gage and drawn by Steven Segovia, Segovia. Later, Ragman is shown aiding the JLA during a mission into Hell, where he helps Green Arrow defeat the demon Anger. And that's actually, guys, it. That's all of Rory's origins as Ragman. Not really much. Not really much there. That's his entire character history. So anyway, guys, that is Ragman. A very lesser known character, a character with a silly name, but considering his powers and everything, he is no more awesome. Anyway, sorry, as I was saying in the previous audio, yeah, he may have a silly name, but he's no more awesome than any of the other characters before and even after this video. Certainly a pretty interesting supernatural character. Quite a few people actually know about him, surprisingly. At least that I know of through YouTube and Facebook and stuff. But anyway, guys, I'm not going to ramble on and bore you anymore. So let's move on to the next character.